Good morning, everyone, and welcome to LivingYosh. Before we begin, I want to sincerely thank my guest, Rabbi Mendy Katz, for taking the time to join us during Tisha B'Av, a day when we reflect on unity and hope for redemption. It means a great deal that you're here with us. Rabbi Katz serves as director of prison outreach for the Aleph Institute, where he has dedicated decades to helping Jewish inmates, supporting their families, and reminding people that no Jew is ever forgotten. This interview is also very personal to me. When I was incarcerated, Rabbi Katz came to visit me. He brought me my own Tefillin, a siddur, Tehillim, and a kippah. In one of the darkest moments in my life, he reminded me that even behind prison walls, I wasn't forgotten. I'll never forget that visit or what it meant to me. Rabbi Katz, thank you for joining us on Living Yosh. It's truly an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
I want to go right into some questions if you don't mind. And being Tisha B'Av, I wanted to ask you, which holiday do you think is the most difficult for prisoners based on your experience to be away from their family?
All holidays are difficult for prisoners to be away from their families. I'm sure Passover is up there with the most difficult holidays, especially since it's more of a family holiday where children are involved. So any father of children or mother of children or grandfather or grandmother of children, Passover is going to be a very difficult one. I could see it past Sukkot being a very difficult holiday, and all the holidays. Every Shabbat is difficult. You're not with your family. You're not able to have a proper Shabbat dinner with songs and so on and so forth. So really, they're all difficult.
I know Shabbos was very tough for me. I mean, just thinking about not being at the table with your kids, singing Hamotzi, going to shul. I can't. It's hard to even put into words. How difficult it is. Rabbi, you obviously are part of the Aleph Institute, which was a lifesaver for me. Can you tell me a little bit how you became a part of the Aleph Institute, where that all got started?
Sure. Actually, this goes back 32 years. I was a young man, single, living in Brooklyn. The Rebbe had recently had a stroke, and I'd finished my rabbinical studies. I became a rabbi, and I was looking for something to do. There was nothing much going on in Brooklyn. The Rebbe was sick. It wasn't coming out as much. And I connected with my cousin who worked at Aleph, and I basically volunteered to visit prisons over the summer of 1994. And in the middle, the Rebbe passed away, but I spent that whole summer visiting prisons across the United States, and really felt the calling and the need, all the pain and the need for much more outreach to Jews in prison. And just went from there and continued working at Aleph after that, just goal by goal, trying to help one Jew after another, and trying to change the system and make it better. And thank God, 32 years later, I could look back and I see a lot of the progress that we've made and hurdles we've overcome, and it's really fulfilling.
Is this something that you ever thought that you'd be doing, after 30 years when you became a rabbi? I mean, was it going to be out?
I don't think that was the plan. I don't think that was the initial plan. It happened. It just happened that way. Like I said, it was really a calling that I felt after volunteering for a summer.
So you started Olive. Were you visiting prisons right away, or is there like an initiation, or do you have to, get
So
yourself
I
in
did,
the system?
right. So I didn't start Aleph. Shalom Lipsker started Aleph
Sorry, I
in
do.
1981.
You
I
started.
started working. I started working at Aleph in 1994, many years after Aleph started. And the way it's, like I said, it started off with visiting prisons. That's how I started, and I continued in that line. That time in 1994, there were very few employees at Aleph. It was a small little operation, and basically I was doing everything. Advocate. I was the visitor. I was the family coordinator. I was doing everything. So it was trying to just keep all the balls in the air. It wasn't easy, and many balls fell. But thank God today we're a very, very strong, large organization. We have many, many employees who take care of families and take care of advocacy, who take care of all the different programs. So I still focus a lot of my time on visiting. I was in two jails yesterday. I was actually in the Palm Beach County Jail yesterday, which is very, very, it's interesting. Every jail has its own life. It's its own, persona. Every jail is different. Everyone asks, well, which jail is worse and which jail is better? And every jail has its own thing. And there's something about the Palm Beach County Jail. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about it that actually beckons me there, even though it's, usually an hour and a half drive in traffic or more, maybe 2 hours. And even though I just come back from New York the night before at 2 a.m., actually landing in the Palm Beach County Jail because I couldn't find the flight to Fort Lauderdale or Miami. But I just had a calling and I'm going out of town next week. So I said, you know what? I really got to go to the Palm Beach County Jail. So I came to the office yesterday after arriving at 1:30 a.m. at home the night before. And I know that I'm out of town a whole week next week. And I said, if I don't go to the county jail today, I'm not going to be able to go because Shabbat, I can't put on film with people in the morning and I can't learn with them. I said, you know what? I'm jumping in the car and I went to the I went to the Palm Beach County Jail and just seeing someone there, even if we don't do nothing, even if we don't talk, even if we don't put on tefillin, even if I don't give them a book, just being with someone in a jail, you have to be there to see it. I think those who have not been in that situation, and a lot of people watching this have never been in jail before, never been in prison before, and they're thinking, well, this guy committed a crime, and may not be the best person in the world, and why should I go visit them? Well, today is Tisha B'av. And the whole reason why the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed was because of the lack of love and love for our fellow Jew and the judging and so on and so forth. And that is what really prison visitation is all about. It's basically saying, listen, I'm not the judge. I'm not your defense attorney. I'm not the prosecutor. I'm just a fellow Jew, and you're a fellow Jew, and you're going through a tough time, regardless of the reason. It doesn't make a difference whether you're innocent or guilty. Actually no difference. The point is that Ahavas Yisrael, to love a fellow Jew, which is the most important commandment in the Torah, is going to visit a Jew in jail. There's no greater Ahavas Yisrael, no greater love, and that's basically what the Aleph Institute is all about. The Aleph Institute was created by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, was initiated by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and Rabbi Lipsker, of course, founded it at the behest of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. But the Rebbe's approach to Aleph was all about to love a fellow Jew. And that was the Rebbe's vision for Aleph. Yes, he wanted Jewish people in prisons to fulfill mitzvahs. He was very keen on Jews in prison putting on tefillin and fulfilling as many actual mitzvahs that they could, because mitzvahs in prison are limited because you can't really give charity, you can't really take your mom to the doctor, you can't do a lot of mitzvahs in prison. Pretty difficult to even say Kiddush Labana because you have to say it outside, you have to see the moon. There's many different, you can't keep the mitzvah mezuzah in prison. The Rebbe's focus was fulfilling mitzvahs, but really, I think I could go out on a limb and say that the reason why the Rebbe wanted people to fulfill mitzvahs in prison is to give them some semblance of fulfillment, to give them some semblance of that they matter, that they could accomplish something. Because the Rebbe explained that the most difficult thing for a human being in prison is that they don't feel that they can accomplish anything. The Rebbe explained this, and anyone could go and listen to this talk. It was given on Purim, 1976, the fourth talk. You could go to Chabad.org and listen to this talk right now in Yiddish. The Rebbe explained that man was created to toil, and that prison is the most difficult challenge for a human being because it takes someone out of the place of what a human being is all about. A human being is all about fulfillment, accomplishing, doing something. And prison says you could accomplish nothing now. I'm going to lock you up in a cell and you're going to do nothing. You're going to accomplish nothing. He said that's the most inhumane thing you could do to a human being. And that's why the Rebbe said it's more important to visit people in prison than to visit people in a hospital. People in a hospital didn't commit any crime, didn't do anything, and they're sick. They may have a problem with their heart. They may have a problem with their head. But the Rebbe explained that a person in a hospital, even though they may have a heart problem or a leg problem or a head problem, the rest of their body is functioning. The rest of their being persona is functioning. A person in prison, they take away their ability to be human, because the whole humanness is about accomplishment. And when you take away ability for someone to feel like he's accomplishing anything, it's the most inhumane thing you could do. So where was I going with this? I forgot the question already.
No, it's okay. I actually was going to have a follow-up question with what you said about, when you visit, because I know when you visit, I know you're obviously very passionate about what you do, Rabbi. And when you came to visit me, which I didn't even know if I was going to have my tefillin again, so obviously it was very emotional. But you're very, I don't know if you remember because you do a lot of visits, but you're very like strong tone, not in a bad way. But like, do you come in there and like you're a little bit like bitter towards the system when you see these prisoners, or just you don't mean to be strong toned towards people, but you're just so flustered with what's going on, the fact that they're there, you have a little bit of on the back of your shoulder, like a little bit of anger when you go into the prison.
I don't know if I'd call that, but I definitely strong-headed and want to make sure that the people that I meet in prison are in the right direction and not get caught up in the victim mentality. So I do sometimes use tough love, if that's what you mean.
I do, and
And
I liked it. I'm not complaining. I actually
tough love. A lot of people. I'll tell you. I went to before I went to the Palm Beach County Jail yesterday. I went to the Miami-Dade County Jail yesterday. And I met an Israeli woman who was arrested for a DUI and had an immigration hold. And when I came in, she was in a turtle suit. They call it no clothes with like a Velcro thick green vest. They call it the turtle suit. They give it to people who have mental health issues or are going through detox. And she was crying hysterically, and I couldn't really have a proper conversation. I had to get information from her, and I had to give her information. I had to help her, and I can't come in and say, keep on crying. No, I had to say, stop crying, because I need to help you. And if you don't let me help you, if you don't stop crying, I can't help you. So the nice thing would be to come and let her cry, but I couldn't do that. I can't do that. I have to get things done. So I have to put aside my emotional self and deal with, logistics. So I was able to get through to her, the information I needed from her, give her the information I had to give to her. And thank God I was tough, because if I wasn't tough and I would just go with the flow, then she would still be in jail by now. But guess what? She's out of jail. You know why?
oh, thank God.
Because I got all the information, followed up, and when I called her people on the outside, they were giving me pushback and telling me they know better than me. And I told them, no, she has to be bailed out right now. Don't worry about the immigration hold. Everything will be fine. And it turns out immigration didn't even pick her up, because I contacted immigration and sent them her her employment card that she had status in this country, not status, but whatever she had ability to be here. She was legal here, and even though she was arrested for a DUI and she wasn't an American, I said, no, we're not picking this person up. But her friends and her other people wanted to leave her in jail because we don't know about the ICE hold. Why should we bail her out? You gotta be tough. You can't. I could have just said, you know what, I'm not gonna get mixed in. This is their life, their friend. I don't know this person. Why should I mix in? Why should I get into a fight? And they were pushed back. I mean, they were tough. I was speaking to some Israeli woman yesterday, friend of hers, who was like, like that I'm in charge, and I didn't listen to her. I went to someone else and I got her bailed out, and she's out of jail right now.
But they don't know who they're talking to. Rabbi, I know you by now.
So you gotta have a little tough love
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, I agree. And Rabbi, I wanted to ask you, because I guess everyone's different, but when you came to me, you gave me a kippah, which was obviously very special. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared being right after October 7th. And do you get other prisoners that, I don't feel comfortable wearing a kippah? And what do you say to them?
So I get that a lot, and what I tell them is what the Rebbe said regarding tefillin. Let's say, and I say that the putting on tefillin is actually going to protect you. And I find that, and I get that from inmates all the time, that it's the inmates in prison that are openly Jewish, that are proud to be Jewish, that get the respect of the other inmates. And the other inmates come to their defense because they see this person is a religious person, this person is a person of God and is sincere, and they don't give him a hard time at all. My experience has been that anyone who's proud to be Jewish in prison and openly observant gets the respect not only of the inmates but the staff as well most of the time. Now, of course, you can have serious anti-Semites out there that will bother them regardless of they're openly Jewish or not. Once they know they're Jewish, they'll go after them. So it has nothing to do with whether being openly Jewish. But 9 out of 10 times, the prouder the Jew, the more sincere the Jew, the more protected they are in prison.
Rabbi, that's totally true, because I got a lot of respect. Like, I would go into, I guess, my cell and pray, and people would walk out and give me privacy. So it's so true what you said, which I was shocked. Because like I said, I was a little nervous at first, but I got a lot of respect. So
Correct.
it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Rabbi, I want to ask you, your first time visiting the prison, what was that like? Do you remember? I mean, I know you've done it many times over the years, but what was your mindset going into it?
So I can't tell you I remember 100%. My first visit, I'm not sure. I think my first visit was a prison in Marianna, Florida, a federal prison in Marianna, Florida. This was on, I think it was on Pesach in 1994. I'm pretty sure that was my first visit. It was a little different setting than a county jail, so it's a little different. You walk into federal prison, you go into the chapel, and there's 20 guys there, and they're waiting for you, and they're interested in hearing from you. And it's not as scary as going into a county jail. I think the first time going into a county jail was a little more of a shell shock. I remember going into the Miami-Dade County Jail. I remember with Rabbi Moshe Horn, who used to work at Aleph Shalom. And that was an experience. I still get a little flustered sometimes going into some of these county jails where I could get, razor blades thrown at me, water thrown at me, spit thrown at me,
Gosh.
Heil Hitler's and, all kinds of beautiful things.
Well, that it sounds gorgeous. Wow, wow. Can you share a prison visit that really sticks out? That obviously you don't have to mention names or anything. That maybe you're never going to forget. Where it's an experience that was so uplifting to you, and I'm sure all of them are. But is there, one specific that you could maybe share?
There's so many. I mean, it's very hard to share one specific. I mean, they happen weekly, monthly. I could tell you about a visit that happened about a month ago in Allenwood, Pennsylvania. I visited. It's the United States Penitentiary, one of the highest security levels of federal prisons. And this person was in a special unit, high security within high security, where he's basically locked in a cell 24/7. Besides from maybe goes to the yard, I don't know how many times. He told me that he has to choose between one phone call a month or between getting once a month some commissary. A very restrictive unit. I don't want to get into why he's in that unit, but it's connected with mental health and other things. I couldn't even sit with him face to face. He had to be like put in a cage. So I was sitting in front of this cage with a little food flap open, which I do a lot in confinement. But this was unique because of just how he's cut off from the world. Most people are not so cut off from the world. Even in confinement, they have sometimes tablets, or maybe they have the ability to make phone calls. I mean, this guy had to choose between one phone call a month or getting commissary. And he was really jaded. He was really, it was just being there. The amount that just every minute I was there with him was just that human interaction with someone who's not cursing him out and threatening him and so on and so forth was just special. I was able to put on Tefillin with him. I was able to communicate with him and listen to him and talk to him. And that's, again, the kind of stories that you're asking about happen daily. I mean, it's what you accomplish what one could accomplish during a prison visit is unbelievable because it can really change a person's life for
Look
forever.
forward to it every day. When you guys visit me, I look forward to it literally every day. I think it kind of saved my life, to be honest. It was so special to me. And thank God I wasn't in a position like the one you just shared, but it's heartbreaking being alone sometimes, especially not, what's going on the outside. You can't physically be in front of someone that can connect with you. With that, Rabbi, so what do you tell someone who's in a position where they feel like my life is over? I mean, how do you comfort someone?
So that's very difficult. I mean, I could talk about difficult. I mean, how do you talk to someone who has a life sentence? How do you talk to someone who has a death sentence? It's very difficult, and something that is difficult till today, 32 years later. And I get that all the time. You're sitting with someone and you're trying to give them hope and you're talking about positivity. I was just in a prison recently, about 2 weeks ago, in a prison in Florida called Liberty Correctional. It's up in the Panhandle, pretty out there, pretty anti-Semitic. And I was sitting in a small room in the chapel with maybe 4 or 5 inmates, and a couple of them had life sentences. And we were, trying to give a positive message regarding the month of Av and the 3-week period of mourning and how we have to transform it and so on. And they were looking at me and said, "Rabbi, well, what now? I lost all my appeals. I'm done. I don't have any way of getting out of here. Why should I be positive? Why should I go on? Why should I believe? Why should I put on tefillin tomorrow morning?" There's no good answers. But what I try to tell them is, listen, if God, for whatever reason, now wants you to be in prison, first of all, it could end tomorrow morning. Mashiach could come, or God, the governor could give you there's a different way. It doesn't have to be just because your appeals are done, doesn't mean you're not getting out of prison. But right now you're here. You have a mission here. God, your mission is here now. And just because your mission may be different than the other person's mission, whose mission is to go visit a hospital, or his other person's mission is to go give charity or to go to shul or whatever, your mission is at Liberty Correctional. And you have to find ways to accomplish your mission here, whether it's teaching every inmate in the prison about the 7 laws of Noah, whether it's helping another Jewish inmate with food or with support or protection or whatever it may be. You have a mission here. And I think I got through to him. I think he heard me and he listened. It's not easy to accept that your mission may be in prison for the next 10 years or 20 years, but it's reality. It's truth. This is the way. God runs the world. Everyone has a different mission. Not everyone is going to be a diamond dealer. Some people are going to be, working in a bakery 14 hours a day, slaving away. Everyone has their own mission. God has a unique mission for every person. Now, we have to thank God that our mission is not to be in prison. But if someone's mission is to be in prison, then that's the mission we have to accept for now. And we have to fulfill that mission. Every single minute that a person's alive, they have a mission.
Well, then, honestly, right, I'm not just saying because you're on with me, but if anyone could get through, I think you can. Because every time you speak to me, I definitely listen. Maybe it's because of the experience, or you're so passionate. So I'm so happy that you're there with these people. I really mean it. This is a hard
Thank
one to
you.
bring up, but which you know about it, you're there for me 24/7. But when I was on house arrest, or even any moment during my tough time, I felt tremendous pressure about keeping Shabbos. And without going so much into my case, what you know what I went through as far as if I should drive on Shabbos, if I should answer the phone. I mean, it's nerve wracking, and I know your opinion as far as just you have to say no. But how do you really get through to someone and tell them, you know what? If you say no, you're going to be taken away. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, and I have Amuna, but how do you give someone that Amuna? I mean, that bitachon. How do you do it?
Loaded question. Listen, taking yourself out of the equation, let's talk about a hypothetical.
Okay.
Many Jewish people over the Jewish history were ready to give their lives for keeping Shabbos or keeping kosher. I see this every day in prisons and jails around the country where people refuse to eat for days, for weeks, and will only eat, let's say some fruit or bread until they get kosher food. But when the jail sees they're serious, they listen, and eventually they cave and they give them kosher food. It's not easy. It's not easy. And many people will tell you, well, I'm in a bad enough situation as it is. I don't think God wants me to go hungry. I need my strength. I need, my life is in danger. And I hear that, but I've seen the other side of it where people have been steadfast in their commitment to Jewish law, and I've seen how it ends. I mean, I know people in jail who are very, very extreme when it comes to kosher, and they have a standard that is way beyond Jewish law, where they won't eat anything that's not um, that's manufactured. They will only eat natural foods because they don't trust the kosher certification and so on and so forth. And these people eat matzah, nuts, and water for years in jail. Now, I think it's crazy because it's beyond halacha, but let's say that was halacha. These people are ready to do it because this is their conviction. This is their standard. This is their level. And many of them get authorities will cave and will say, okay, you could take fresh fruits and vegetables out of the kitchen. Listen, I mean, I'll tell you a story that happened with me. One year I was volunteering at a prison in New Jersey, Fort Dix, New Jersey, a federal prison for Yom Kippur. I went to lead services at a prison, and I got to the prison before Yom Kippur, and I parked my car in front of the jail. We went in, we did Marav, Kol Nidre, and Marav, and so on. As I was leaving the jail, the guy said, you need to move your car. I said, not moving my car. It's Yom Kippur. I cannot move my car. He says, you need to move your car. I said, you can do whatever you want. I'm not moving my car. I left all my stuff there, the keys, of course, my driver's license, talis, my kittel, my everything, my gartel, everything I had to lead services the next day. There I left in the prison because of not carrying anything. And I go to my hotel room, which was on a military base. The prison was on a military base, so they had a hotel for the military there. And I start getting calls on my phone in my room. Of course, I'm not picking up the phone. It's Yom Kippur. And like at 1 a.m, I got loud knocks banging on my door from the military police. Came and said, you got to move your car. I said, listen, buddy, I'm not moving my car. You could take your gun out. You could blow my brains out. I'm not moving my car. It's not happening. So they said, okay, we're going to tow your car. I said, go ahead, tow my car. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Anyway, I came back the next morning to the prison. They put my talis, my kittel, my gartel, everything I had into the car and towed the car. I didn't have a talis. I didn't have a kittel. I didn't have nothing. And I led services with like that. I mean, there was a talis from the prison I borrowed. And, it is what it is. This is life. Fortunately, we live in exile. And we have challenges. And every challenge is there to make us stronger. And I have you wouldn't believe 32 years later, I still have such challenges where you would think by now, you would get some sort of respect. There are anti-Semites out there that are waiting to find a way to to cause you trouble on a daily basis. I get tested and challenged and disrespected. It's upsetting because you think, listen, I'm trying to do God's work here. I'm trying to help people. Why does God have to throw challenges? But that's how God operates. We're in exile, and God throws us challenges to make us stronger. And I see that, I believe that, I know that, even though it's difficult, but you can't be dejected. I'll give you an example. I was at a prison last week in Florida, and I felt that there's a bad aura, and I just got the vibes. The inmates were telling me that the chaplain was saying disgusting things about me and threatening me, all kinds of bad things, and I got a bad vibe, and the guard was saying, all of a sudden came after a half hour of me being there, so you have to leave right now, count or whatever. And there was no. I've never been in that prison many times. It never happened to me before, so I knew something's weird here. But there was an inmate in confinement who I knew, hadn't seen anyone in 6 months. He was in confinement for 6 months. And I wanted to go see him. And I knew it was a bad idea, but I felt bad. So I asked the captain if I could go see him in confinement. He said, sure, no problem, because the place is like, these prisons like a run on their own, like retarded. I mean, I wanted drugs all over the prison, cell phones all over the prison. It was just crazy. And all of a sudden I'm in confinement, and the colonel comes running in with the assistant warden and said, you have to leave right now. Blah, blah, blah. And I told him, I got permission from the, said, we don't care. He has no permission to give permission. Blah, blah. And then, I get these emails afterwards. We got you written up. You went against the rules here. You broke our rules. Look, I asked permission, but they were looking to make trouble. They were looking to make the rabbi trouble, make the Jewish people trouble. So, but I knew I shouldn't have gone, but I had to go because I have to do what I have to do. And I can't be looking over my shoulder. If I looked over my shoulder all day long, I could just quit my job right now, because you can't be afraid of doing the right thing. You have to do the right thing, not break the rules, but do the right thing.
I feel like, with me with Shabbos, there's not a day that goes by where I feel like Hashem gave me this opportunity to pass the test. And to be honest, I feel like, I disappointed him. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I
try to stay away from your situation. I try to not talk about you and talk about theory, but
No, I know.
something.
I just, I guess it comes to my mind when I see you. So we don't want to get too much into it. So do you think that prison could, I don't want to say it's a positive thing, but sometimes, and I guess from experience, once again, you're kind of taken away from all the distractions from society, where sometimes it might be a positive thing for people where they could really grow because there's no internet, there's no people saying this. Even social media is a distraction these days. Like how you said, people kind of are not saying nice things about each other. Maybe it's like almost therapeutic to be in a place where there's nothing else but you and Hashem.
Oh, 100%. And I've had people that have told me, say, Rabbi, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm stuck in this rat race for so many years. I can't get out of it. And I have the first time in so many years that I could sit and relax and just read and study and learn more about myself. 100% that people, after spending a certain amount of time in prison, not too much time because then you lose your marbles, but a certain amount of time with the right perspective, come out much stronger and with their priorities screwed on straight. People don't, before you're in that situation, you really don't know who your friends are. You really don't know what's important in life. You're all distracted. And when you're in prison, you realize who your real friends are. You realize what your priorities are in life. And yes, you really savor time and well spent and not wasted on stupidity, because you understood, you understand what it means to not to be running after every social media thing and not to waste your time on stupidity. And definitely a lot of people over the years I've met have really changed their life, turned their life around from being in prison, have become totally observant where they weren't observant at all. I was sitting with a Jew yesterday in the Palm Beach County Jail who was absolutely not observant at all. And I met him about a year ago, and he hopefully he's about to get out. He spent the whole year in the Palm Beach County Jail fighting his case. And he told me, he said, Rabbi, I'm never going to stop putting on tefillin. I started putting on tefillin in prison. I'll tell you one thing for sure. I'm always going to put on tefillin. And he was talking to me how he's going to get his tefillin when he gets out, if he should, but he gave me that commitment. He looked at me in the eye and he said, Rabbi, I'm 70 something years old. I'm never going to not put on tefillin. It means so much to me. It's changed my life. And he said he's been keeping Shabbos in the prison. He read so many books. I just brought him the Code of Jewish Law. I brought him the Code of Jewish Law, 2 volumes. I brought him a Chitas, Hebrew English Chitas, and he's so excited about it. Like he's gobbling up these books. He read the whole book, the Rebbe, He's read so many books that I've brought to him and sent him, and he's changed. He's changed, and he's proud of it. He's hoping, he's not sure that he's going to be able what he's going to be able to, but tefillin, he's 100% sure that he's going to never stop putting on tefillin, for sure not.
So, Rabbi, based on your opinion, how do we get those wake up calls out here when we have so many distractions?
That's people. I mean, people have to think about that. Think about what's important in life, and it's probably important to take some of these apps off your phone. I know people that choose not to have WhatsApp. I operate on WhatsApp. I mean, but if someone could do that, more power to them. I mean, kol hakavod. If someone could get rid of WhatsApp on your phone and get rid of Facebook and not have social media, I think social media steals hours of people's day every day, and I think that is something you could learn from someone in prison. Is if you could survive in prison without social media, you could survive in prison outside of prison without social media. Social media is a waste of time, and people can't waste time. You realize how precious time is when you're in prison, because every minute that you're away from your family, you're away from your business, you're away from your community, is so difficult. So you know how precious that time is. If someone could say, "Hey, I'm going to get you out of jail a week earlier," you could save a week of your life. So why waste weeks of your life on social media and stupidity? So yeah, it's definitely something people should think about. And um, you know, I think Tisha B'av is a time to think about being more focused on helping others than just in self-indulging. And social media is usually self-indulging, and people should shut off their social media and spend that time, um, calling a friend, calling their mother, calling their father, trying to see how you can be more helpful. There's so many your friends and acquaintances are looking for help, trying to find a job, trying to just feel better. I mean, if you could use all that time you're on social media by calling some of your friends that are down, that are not doing so well, and giving them some chizuk, I mean, that's what it's all about. Bottom line from the whole story is that loving your fellow Jew as yourself is the message. That's the message of Tisha B'av. That's the message of prisons. That's the message. It's the same message. It's nothing changes, and that's the whole Torah. The rest is just an explanation. It's the greatest rule in the Torah. And that's our mission in life. Our mission in life has to be not wait till someone begs you, can you help me? But to go and find someone who needs to be uplifted. Yesterday, the 8th of Av, the day before Tisha B'av, there's a Hayom Yom, the first book the Rebbe ever wrote, the Lubavitcher Rebbe ever wrote in 1943. And every day there's a thought for the day. And just by divine providence, the thought for the day before Tisha B'av, the day before Tisha B'av, goes as follows. Mipiskami Azmor, from the sayings of my grandfather. What is the point of the whole Hasidic movement, the whole Hasidic philosophy? What is the point of studying Hasidic philosophy for hours, or praying for hours and meditating about God and loving God and fearing God and serving God with zeal and with excitement, like as a Chassid? And what's the point of Yirah Shamayim? What's the point of fear of heaven? Meaning, what's the point of following the code of Jewish law to the letter of the law if you're lacking in the fulfillment of love your fellow Jew as yourself? And this is not just a person saying this. This is a rabbi, a rebbe, a Hasidic master who's saying that basically, all intents and purposes, the code of Jewish law is worthless. Hasidic philosophy is worthless if you're lacking, not if you don't do it, if you're lacking in the love of your fellow Jew as yourself. And then it goes on to say, if someone actually causes harm to someone else, then you're totally off the mark. If you're lacking in love your fellow Jew as yourself, then the whole code of Jewish law is worthless. Hasidic philosophy is worthless. But if you're actually causing pain to another Jew, then all bets are off. Then you're totally, you're on the wrong boat. So
I agree.
this is a very important lesson on Tisha B'av for everyone to realize that we're not talking about someone who hates people. We're talking about someone who lacks in their love. The reason why the temple was destroyed is not just because of senseless hatred. Of course, that's the worst thing, senseless hatred, ego, and so on and so forth. But when we don't call a friend that we know is in the doldrums, when we don't reach out to someone to lift them up, we're doing the wrong thing. It's very simple. We need to step it up. And maybe not everyone has to visit a prison, but everyone has to pick up the phone and call a friend that's not doing well financially or is not doing well in other areas. Everyone has to say good morning to someone when they walk into shul, and just be friendly and be nice and be a shoulder for someone else.
I agree, Rabbi. Thank you so much for saying. I agree. I don't think we should have to wait for someone to call us and say, "I need help." Yeah, and I agree. I wanted to ask you. I know you spoke about what you say to the prisoners, and I know Aleph provides everything, therapy, someone you could call if you need help at any time. What do you say to a family who might not see, someone for a very long time? I mean, how they're going to, I mean, you could tell the prisoner this is what Hashem wants, but how do you tell that to a family that has kids?
So first of all, Aleph actually does have amazing family programs
I
where
know.
we have this beautiful program called the Angel Program, where we provide therapists to parents and wives and children, and it's difficult. It's difficult, but what do you tell the family? Like everything else, this is their current mission. This is what they have to deal with. There's always, listen, you could always tell people, you got to look at the cup half full instead of half empty. I just commemorated the first yard set of my nephew. I had a nephew who had cancer
Sorry.
and passed away at 18, just 2 days ago, Zainab,
May the son
and
familia.
his first yard set. So, for my brother and sister-in-law, if their child was in prison, it would be so much better than if they're now this situation of their child being in a cemetery. So we have to look at the cup half full instead of half empty. Yes, there's nothing more terrible for a child not to have a father to do homework with and not to have a father to hug them and kiss them, but there's worse situations. And God does run the world, and yet you can't just say it's up to God. You need to work hard on making sure your children are in a good place and get them the proper attention and the proper therapy and the proper love and whatever you have to do to build them up while the father or mother is in prison. But at the end of the day, God does run the world, and there is a plan, but we have to do our best to support those family members that are going through that, and it is difficult. But there is a way to address it to the best of our ability.
Rabbi, so I can only imagine when you go into prison, you see someone who's having obviously a very tough time, and the look on their face when you put on their tefillin, how does that make you feel?
So actually, tefillin is my passion, even separate from prisons. So tefillin is something that I was doing as a young child already. My father got me into putting on tefillin with people. So this is a lifelong passion, and tefillin is something that really, for whatever reason, spiritually, it has really effect on someone. It's the way Torah law teaches us about tefillin, that having tefillin on your head and on your hand actually has a physical effect on us and changes us. We know that there's something about a person who never put on tefillin once in his life and then puts it on, that it changes their status as a Jew, that they're able to go into the world to come. So tefillin is very powerful, and I find that many people, whoever I'm able to convince to put on tefillin in prison, and we send out way north of 100 pairs of tefillin a year, probably like 130 or 140 pairs of tefillin a year here at Aleph to people in prison. It's a constant challenge to get more tefillin. And it's something that I spend probably 30-40% of my day on, is trying to get Jews tefillin in prison, or at least 25% of my day. I'm trying to make sure I get the tefillin into the hands of Jewish inmates to put on tefillin. But I see a difference, and they tell me the difference, that they feel so much better when they put on tefillin, because again, it's that feel accomplished, that they could own something, that they could do something. But more importantly, there's that spiritual connection with God. There's that hard line connection. Now everything's Wi-Fi, but when you have that hardwire connection, that's tefillin. It's like a physical connection with God, and there's nothing more powerful than that. And that really keeps a lot of inmates going, that they have that ability to put on tefillin, and they.
True. I agree. It's very powerful, and everyone's very appreciative of what all it does. I wanted to ask you, Rabbi, when the prisoner tells you, "What should I pray for?" What do you tell them? What's the number one thing besides the obvious of freedom?
I don't really get that question a lot, to tell you the truth.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't really get that question a lot. What should I pray for? Yeah, I mean, pray for freedom. Really, that's the number one thing that people ask for, is freedom, of course. Health, secure, safety. Prison safety is a very big deal. Safety, freedom, family. I mean, everyone's different. Yeah.
So we spoke about change when somebody comes out. Do you kind of tell someone before they're let out of prison that, this is a wake up call and it's time to, to maybe change who you are a little, change the way you do things?
All the time. I tell people all the time that God sent them to prison for a reason. They're here for a reason, and the reason why they came to prison was because they drifted from God, and God wanted to bring them back, and this was maybe the only way that the God could bring them back, and they have to recognize that and realize that. And if they just go back to the same way, then you accomplish nothing. It was a waste of time. The whole, God runs the world and works in mysterious ways. And sometimes a person that was never meant to end up in prison ends up in prison just because God wants them to get that wake up call. And a lot of people agree. Some don't maybe, but definitely I drive that message home strong and try to convince people to keep up with their higher level observance that they started in prison. And it's tough. It's tough because on the outside it is a rat race, and people, it's much easier to keep Shabbat in prison where you can't go out to dinner, you can't go out to a movie. So the only way to violate Shabbat in prison is to pick up the phone or, take a pen or a pencil and write something or send an email. Not really so important to send an email on Saturday morning or pick up the phone on Saturday morning. You could do it on Saturday night. So it's very easy to keep Shabbat in prison. A lot of people take that on, and it's much harder to keep Shabbat out in the outside world where, you want to change the channel on the TV, or you want to drive to the store, and it's much more difficult. And I beseech them to recognize the beauty of Shabbat. That Shabbat is such a peaceful time where we don't have to pick up our phone. That's the biggest thing is the phone. In prison they don't have the cell phone, so that's a big challenge.
I want to ask you, and I didn't really know how to word this question because you're obviously very strong and you have to be for others. But what scares you? What are you afraid of? So I never see you, weak, and I haven't known you forever. You're so strong, and it's unbelievable.
Scares me to be arrested.
Wait, Rabbi, and I'm not getting humorous here, but so if something scares you, then how can you stay strong I'm not talking about you personally, where don't pick up the phone, take me away. Even when you were in the army base, you said no, and they could have sit down and arrest you. How are you so strong about that? But being arrested scares you. I'm not questioning you at all. Trust me, Rabbi. I respect you more than anything. But I guess why does it
Well,
scare you? I mean,
what?
why
What's
does
your
it
question?
scare you? I mean,
Why does it scare me to be
wait,
arrested?
let me reword the question. How are you so strong and that scares you? I just know you as a very strong person.
Because I know the way the system works, and the system is very corrupt and a dirty cop. There are a lot of dirty cops out there. There's a lot of dirty prosecutors that if they want if they want to get rid of someone, they could bring trumped up charges, and they could really ruin your life. And I see that every day. I've seen that from the cop on Miami Beach that throws a crack stem into your car to made up evidence to all kinds of stuff. I've seen that in what I've seen in 32 years. I could write 10 books about how corrupt the justice system is in the country, and it's still the best justice system in the country because at the end of the day, we do have checks and balances, but it's a very big uphill battle. And if a crooked cop or a crooked prosecutor or whoever it may be wants to get you arrested on false charges, they could do it, and it's very scary, very very scary.
Rabbi, I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but you've sat obviously in the sentence hearings, and when you hear someone gets sentenced to many years in prison, their life gets turned upside down, what goes through your mind?
I've been doing this for so long that the people who were sentenced to 25 years are out now,
Wow.
and I remember when they were first arrested, and I remember thinking, "Oh my God, how is this guy going to do 25 years?" But you know what? Some of these people are out now and functioning and running their lives, and if they had the right attitude in prison and always focused on getting out and not getting institutionalized and not losing hope and trying to feel to be as accomplished as possible in prison and taking care of their families. A lot of people go through great lengths to keep their families together. I mean, I know someone before they went to prison hid gifts for birthdays and anniversaries for 7-8 years before they went away just to keep their marriage together. People go to great lengths to keep their family together, to keep their kids in the right path. And it's not impossible. It's difficult. It's very challenging, but it's not impossible. And like I said, even if someone has a life sentence, even if they lost all their appeals, there's still a mission. God, every human being that has life, every moment of their life, they have a mission to accomplish, whether it's making a blessing on food, whether it's helping another Jew, whatever it may be. We have a mission in this world. Yes, we'd rather our mission be a positive, enjoyable mission rather than a challenging mission, but we don't always get to make that choice. And the bottom line is that we have to know it. The way to do it is to take every minute and say, what am I going to accomplish for the next minute? What am I going to accomplish for the next hour? And not think about 25 years. Think about the next day. Think about the next hour, and think about the positive, what we could accomplish in a positive way.
What do you think the Rebbe would say about the prison system if he was with us today, if he was alive today? What would be, in a few words, what would his message be?
It's a great question. And we know the message of the Rebbe because he said it so many times. The Rebbe spoke, by the way, for hours. And I don't mean minutes, hours about Jews in prison, and wrote so many letters and so many answers. And the Rebbe was very passionate about Jews in prison. And a lot of this is recorded on audio or video. And those that were said on Shabbat or Yom Tov are written down. So this could be really research. Probably could write a book on the Rebbe's talks regarding prisons. And the Rebbe had a very clear vision, and that was that people in prison are not there because they committed a crime. People in prison, because there are many people that that commit crimes and never go to prison. So it's not about a crime. This is people that are going through challenges just like any other challenge. And this is the challenge that God chose for them. And it's our job to uplift them. And Rebbe said that God loves those that are downtrodden. And these people are downtrodden. God has a special place in his heart for those that are in prison. And the main focus was to find innovative ways for Jewish people to fulfill commandments and to feel accomplished in prison. And the Rebbe would feel better about this current situation of people in prison than it was in, when the Rebbe was talking about prisons, which was more in the 80s, because now most people in prison have a tablet. On that tablet, they could watch thousands of hours of Torah classes and can read hundreds of books and go watch hundreds of videos of the Rebbe talking about important topics. The Rebbe would be excited about all the Jews in prison that are putting on tefillin, many more than were putting on tefillin in the 80s, that now I would say at least almost 50% of the Jews in prison, maybe more, are putting on tefillin every day. The Rebbe would be excited about the fact that we have accomplished so much in enabling Jews in prison to observe and practice. When I started this in 1994, there were so many prison systems that didn't provide kosher. The kosher food was abominable. In federal prisons, they would get a half an onion and a half a cabbage, and maybe twice or three times a week they would get a meat hamburger. Now, they get proper meals. It took a lot of work, a lot of fighting. The state of Florida didn't have a kosher program. Not one inmate in the state of Florida was able to keep kosher. And it goes on and on and on. So we've accomplished so much. No one had sukkahs. It was almost impossible to get a sukkah in a prison. Now, any Jewish inmate who wants to eat in a sukkah on sukkahs in a prison can do it. So we've made major inroads into the level of ability for Jewish people to practice and observe in prison. And I think the Rebbe would be satisfied. I wouldn't say happy, because the Rebbe is never happy. He always wants more, but would be somewhat satisfied with the accomplishments of what Aleph has been able to accomplish since the Rebbe's passing in 1994 until today.
I wanted to ask you, because obviously I appreciate Aleph so much. People who are not part of Aleph, what can they do to help out Aleph, and what can they do to help people who maybe experience being in the prison system, or in any way? What's your advice to people to help each other out more? We could always do more, like you said, the Rebbe would say.
Right. So of course, Aleph needs financial help. We don't get any government funding. We don't get any real grants. Every penny is funded by donors. So, the number one thing that how people could help is by donating to the Aleph Institute. That would be a great help. But if you don't have the money to donate, and it doesn't have to be a lot of money, you could donate whatever you have. But if you don't have money to donate, you could donate your time. You could visit prisons. We have a lot of lay leaders that are visiting jails and prisons around the country. There are a lot of people that don't get visits. We have a Torah on the phone program where a person could take 15 minutes a week and study with a Jewish inmate on the phone. We have a one-on-one visit program where we have volunteers that go into prisons to meet with the group or go as volunteers, or there's others that go one-on-one to visit people who don't get visits. A lot of Jewish people that don't get any visits from family or friends, and they would love to have someone come visit them in the visiting room and sit with them. And so we have a lot of different opportunities for volunteers to get involved as well.
I have two more questions. Has Aleph been a little more, I guess, even though they're so passionate already, they've been more passionate about, their message since what's been going on with Israel, or has it not had that much of an effect? I mean, obviously you feel close to the Jewish people with what we've been going through. Does it affect, people that work at Aleph as far as their mission?
You're asking if October 7th or anti-Semitism has
Yes.
an effect on prisons? Well, again, the anti-Semitism, I think, is everywhere. I think some of the challenges I've been facing recently in prison are connected with rise of anti-Semitism. I think, prison officials who were closet anti-Semites, when they listen to people like Tucker Carlson, feel like they could come out of their anti-Semite closet, and it definitely has an effect. And we have to be vigilant of that and be on top of that and be ahead of that. But on the other hand, you have good people on who are not Jewish, who are not anti-Semites, who hopefully will come to protect and to assist. So there's no direct connection between October 7th and prisons, but definitely a connection between the rise of anti-Semitism in the world and how that trickles over to how we interact in the prisons and how it affects us.
One more question, Rabbi. If someone would quote you, what would be the strong quote that they'd say, this is what Rabbi Katz says?
So I was actually quoted in a book called The Rebbe's Army. Sue Fishkoff wrote this book, and she went with me to a prison in California, and she saw an interaction that I had with an inmate there. And this inmate was born Jewish, but had taken on Christianity. And I was having this conversation with the inmate, and at the end of the conversation, I told the inmate, I said, "You should know that you were born a Jew, and you're going to die a Jew. It doesn't make a difference what you're doing in between, because this is the way it is. You were born a Jew and you're going to die a Jew." And the inmate looked back at me and he said, "I know that."
Oh my gosh. Wow. That gives me chills. Thank you for sharing that, Rabbi. Rabbi, usually I close off the interview, but is there maybe some words that you could just share?
So Tisha B'Av is all about senseless hatred. We know that the temple was destroyed. The second temple was destroyed specifically because of senseless hatred, different than the first temple. And this exile has been so long, and we've been commemorating Tisha B'Av for so many years. And we need to do what we can to end it. We can't just fast another Tisha B'Av and watch some videos and think that everything is going to be hunky dory. We need to realize the predicament we're in and realize that there's a fix. And the fix is to rein in our ego, because ego is the cause of senseless hatred. And we need to do things not because it's good for us, but because God wants us to do them, because it's the right thing to do. And we need to go out of our way to be kind to others and to be loving to others, and to be less judgmental and to be accepting, and not to look to break down, but to build up. A lot of people, especially in the Orthodox Jewish world, it's me or you. It's Ashkenaz versus Sfarad, it's Chabad versus Litvish, and it's that's not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to work together. We have a common goal. The common goal is to build, not to destroy. And there's no reason why we can't work together stronger and find commonality. And if we do that, if everyone would just be honest with themselves and really put aside their egos and really do things for the right reasons, for the way God, for God, and so on, then Mashiach will come, and we won't have to fast anymore on Tisha B'Av, and we won't be in exile for 2,000 years. This could all end. It's up to each and every one of us. Each and every one of us has to be more humble, has to be more loving, has to be more outgoing, not waiting for someone to ask them to do a favor, but really going over to people who need help, and offering help, and just being nice, just saying good morning to people, saying good Shabbos to people. That's what everything's all about. So, we never know why our soul came down to this world. We don't really know what the mission is that God gave us. And it could be that we live our whole life and we miss that one opportunity that God gave us to help another person. And that would be such a tragedy. Imagine living your whole life and missing the one mission that God gave you that brought your soul down into this world. So we gotta make sure not to miss any opportunity.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you to you and to Aleph for everything you not only did for me and my family, but for everyone. Really, it's a bracha, and you would make the Rebbe proud. And I'm a better person. Many other are a better person, and we're going strong because of you and Aleph. And I can't thank you enough for being on my show, LivingYosh, today. And it's a bracha. It's a bracha. And I hope people really listen and realize that we need organizations like Olive, but we don't have to be part of Olive to make a difference. Like you said, Rabbi, just go out and be nice to people. It's so simple to make a difference, and we need it as Jews more than ever. So thank you. Thank you, Rabbi, for being here. It means a lot to me.
Thank you.
Have an easy fast.
You too.